Hello, Oilers fans. Austin here with the day after discussion of the Oilers' 9-1 ass whooping to the Colorado Avalanche. Yes, it was not a 9-1 loss. It was a 9-1 ass whooping. That is a belt to ass type of game. In these day afters, for those of you who have been around for a long time, these are usually pretty formal. I usually have a list of talking points that I talk about. Sometimes it's usually things that I didn't talk about in the fan reaction. Sometimes it's just a continuation of the fan reaction with just, added thoughts and ideas and speculation and dialogue. And then I try and get all of you engaged as well. But last night's game pissed me off so much. And I know I didn't scream and shout in the fan reaction. That's something that I don't usually do, or at least I try to avoid at all costs. I was so mad last night that I woke up this morning bright and early and I went and did a volunteer shift at the Humane Society here in Central Alberta because I wanted to do something productive. I wanted to get my brain off of hockey. I wanted to go cuddle some kitties and play with them. I wanted to do some dishes, some laundry. I just wanted to do something instead of focusing on the hockey. And of course I did that. And I was still pissed off. So I came home and I have a list of things that I want to talk about. But what I'm trying to say here in the intro is it's okay to be mad at the team. And it's also okay to try and channel that energy into something positive. For me, it was volunteering this morning at the Humane Society. For you, it could be as simple as just getting the dishes done or getting the laundry done or getting some homework done or playing with your own animals if you have any pets at home. Channel that negativity into some positivity at some point today. It doesn't have to be right now. Right now, we are all in this together. We are in the hole together with the Edmonton Oilers. If you're watching this video, I want you to feel the emotions that I'm feeling right now because the carryover into today, the spillover, I should say, has not let up at all. In fact, I think the dam is so busted and so broken, I don't know if we're going to get that water to stop coming in until some major changes happen here. The Oilers have an opportunity to have a bounce back on Monday, but the fact that we have to still talk about bounce back and leadership and a learning experience. God, I don't even know if Kris Knoblauch said if the team was fragile last night, but if he did, I probably blacked out and just forgot about it because of how often he said the team was fragile last season. There are things that this team is struggling with. We have seen it all season long. It's usually the offense. Sometimes it's the defense. Sometimes it's the goaltending. Last night was a culmination of literally everything wrong with this group. And to me, it starts with Kris Knoblauch. So before we get into Knoblauch, I do want to address the goaltending because there are still a section of fans out there that are like, oh, well, it doesn't matter who you put in goal. They're not saving those pucks. Listen, I'm not arguing that. Any goalie right now, you could take Carey Price in his prime and put him behind that Oilers team last night. I talked about it last night. You could put Dominik Hasek in his prime behind that Oilers team last night, and they still likely don't come out with the win. But as Kevin BX has said in the first intermission during the game, a couple early goals against, especially if they're kind of on the weaker side, yeah, you can say Cale Makar picked his spots, but one of those shots was from 65 feet out with no traffic in front, and all Stuart Skinner had to do was cut the angle. Goals against like that do deflate the team. It becomes a mental battle for a lot of these players, and I think they are tired of constantly watching Stu give up one of those goals or more every single game. The Oilers actually started off strong last night. That's the sad part. I thought the first 5 or 6 shifts from Edmonton, they were rolling. They were out shooting the Colorado Avalanche 5-0. They had an early power play. They had some looks. Guys were moving the puck. I thought the Roslovic, Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid line looked good. And then Colorado, on essentially their first real opportunity, Cale Makar posting in. I will say that is a great shot from Cale Makar. No worries. You're down by 1. It happens. Get back on the horse. 30 seconds later, Cale Makar again, essentially the same spot. Oh, well, that's not a great goal. And you could feel it. The energy in the building. You could see everyone sag on the ice. You can see the shoulders slump. And you could tell that the players at that point had given up on the game. Now, is it professional of them to have done that? No, you don't want to just give up on a hockey game 15 minutes into the first period. That's not a good look. That's not a good look for the players on the ice. That's not a good look for the fans who paid hard-earned money to go and watch you on a Saturday night, hockey night in Canada. people bringing their kids. I remember my first game and, excited. The Oilers ended up losing that game, but at least it wasn't 9-1. There were probably a lot of kids who witnessed their first game last night and got to witness a 9-1 absolute thumping. But I'm looking at this from the perspective of the Oilers team that has been together for a long time. That leadership group, the McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge, Bouchard, Ekholm, Nurse, like the guys that have been on this roster for a long time that have constantly seen bad goals going against Stuart Skinner every single night. Even Stu this season, the games that he's played well, there are still those absolute stinkers, and you can't expect him to play perfect every single night. I understand that. But at some point, it weighs on a player. It weighs on the psyche, and last night was a game where I think the group collectively gave up not only on their goaltending, but they gave up on themselves. And Kris Knoblauch had absolutely no answer for that. He tried to put Calvin Pickard into the crease, tried to stop the bleeding, but Calvin Pickard ended up giving up 5 goals on 21 shots. And speaking of Calvin Pickard, I think he's done. I think he's completely unplayable. If we look at Calvin Pickard's stats in his last 5 games, .818 save percentage against New Jersey, .815 save percentage against Montreal, .852 against Vancouver, .864 against the St. Louis Blues, and a .762 against the Colorado Avalanche. 4 goals against, 5 goals against, 4 goals against, 3 goals against, 5 goals against. How are you going to win hockey games with this type of goaltending? How? How are you going to win hockey games with this type of goaltending? If you take a look at last year, 271 goals against, 900 save percentage. A slight drop off from his 909, 245 in his first year with the team. This year, 4 goals against average, 836 save percentage. He's statistically one of the worst goaltenders in the entire NHL. And that's pretty crazy to think about because you know what the Oilers did with Calvin Pickard for 2 years in a row? They relied on Calvin Pickard to be the guy to save their team's season during the playoffs when Stuart Skinner couldn't get the job done. 2 years ago against the Vancouver Canucks in round 2, Stuart Skinner was so unplayable that they started Calvin Pickard in game 4 on home ice. He got the win. He gets to start in game 5. The team gives up a late back-breaking goal. They lose 3-2 in regulation. They go back to Stuart Skinner, and yeah, credit to Stu. He goes on a run. They go to the Cup final. They go to game 7. They lost. It is what it is. But then last year, in the playoffs again, Calvin Pickard had to be the savior in the crease because Stuart Skinner was unplayable. Stuart Skinner, game 1 against LA, absolutely shits the bed. Game 2 against the Kings, he shits the bed so hard that he regressed mentally and was just laughing the whole time. And then he gets pulled. And Calvin Pickard has to go into that crease and save the whole season. Your journeyman backup was relied on to save the Oilers' season in the playoffs 2 years in a row. And fans will still sit here and tell me that goaltending is not the problem on this team. How can you actually look at me and other fans and believe that? How do you believe that? Calvin Pickard did what he could last year in the playoffs. He rattled off, 6 wins in a row or 7 wins in a row, whatever it was, 6. I think it was 6 wins in a row before he got hurt against the Vegas Golden Knights. And maybe he's still hurt. Tomas Hertl fell on his leg and I think busted it up or something. I don't know. And then Stu came in up and down. He had 2 shutouts against Vegas. He played well against Dallas and he stunk the bed against the Florida Panthers in the Cup final for the second year in a row. Would Stu playing good against Florida this year have even mattered? Probably not, because Florida was just that good. But the fact that you had Calvin Pickard, your journeyman backup, have to come in and save Stu's ass multiple times in the playoffs, the most important time of the year. And if it wasn't for Jay Woodcroft refusing to play Jack Campbell in the 2023 playoffs, especially that Vegas series where Stuart Skinner was pulled 3 times, Stu would have had to have been pulled for another goalie to step up and save their season once again. Jack Campbell, for all of the, we know what happened to Jack Campbell in Edmonton. But when he was called upon in relief for Stuart Skinner during the playoffs in 2023, that Kings series and that Vegas series, Jack Campbell stepped up, but Jay Woodcroft refused to start him. Lived and died by the sword with Stu. And Jay Woodcroft got fired after a 2-9-1 start in the 23-24 season because Stu and Campbell were putting up 3.5 goals against average and like an .870 save percentage. People will say, well, no, Woodcroft got fired because he tried to change the defensive system and it wasn't working and the team looked confused and defensively they were off. And that's all also correct. But analytically, the underlying metrics for that Oilers team before Jay Woodcroft was fired were very solid. Most fans knew that they were going to turn the season around. What we're seeing right now with Kris Knoblauch's group, this is a team that is not going to turn the season around. The Oilers' underlying metrics are absolutely putrid. They have no offensive punch. They have no offensive attacking rhythm. They shoot everything from distance, low danger, mid-range shots. They do not cycle enough. They do not get the puck into the inner slot. They don't generate anything. The only thing that they're generating right now is on the power play. This is a fundamentally flawed coached team right now. And it starts with Kris Knoblauch. And for the team, I'm going back to the goalies here. So since the 23-24 season, the Oilers have made changes everywhere in their organization. They have a new general manager. Kris Knoblauch came in for Jay Woodcroft. They picked up a couple defensemen. Jake Wallman, what a trade. What a trade that was from Stan Bowman. They get Wallman. They pick up different forwards. They got guys like Jack Roslovic now, and Roslovic's been playing good. They've bolstered their bottom six with some European players who came out overseas. Ike Howard, they signed him or traded for him from Tampa out of college. Matthew Savoy, they traded for him, right? They gave up Ryan McLeod in the Matthew Savoy deal. High upside, hasn't shown it at the NHL level yet. They have essentially changed everything top to bottom in this organization to improve. But the one thing that they have not done is change the goaltending. It has been stew and picks for the past 2.5, almost 3 years. And people will still sit here and tell you it's not the goaltending. If you have tried to fix literally everything else and you're getting results in other areas, but the one area that you still need results in is not giving you results, maybe that's the area that this organization needs to focus on. Right? Now, maybe Kris Knoblauch has lost the room too. Maybe there's a combination of that. Maybe Knoblauch's lost the room, or maybe he's lost the ability to motivate his team. But Kris Knoblauch does not instill confidence in me as a fan when you're getting absolutely shit pumped on home ice, and every time they show him on the bench, he's just like, what is that? If I was the head coach of a team getting blown out 9-1 and my players were lethargic, showing no emotion, I would be breaking sticks. I would take several penalties, several bench minors. I would be so mad at my group. And do you need a John Tortorella style coach behind the bench to just scream at everyone the whole time? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's what they need. Is it what they needed last night? Maybe. They need something. And Kris Knoblauch right now, if he can't motivate his guys to go, and if he can't instill any emotion in this group when they're being absolutely pumped on home ice, I keep reiterating this is on home ice. This is your barn. This is where you are not supposed to lose like that. This is where your fans are paying hard-earned money to watch you. You are getting blown out on home ice, and your response is, now that sucks. You know how awful that is? There's a reason why I am not in upper management. I don't work in a front office. I took courses to learn how front offices work in the NHL. I have spoken personally with people like Harry Sinden, Mike Oak, who's the general manager of the Peterborough Petes. I have spoken to former players. I've spoken to former NHL coaches. How front offices work, how organizations work. There's a reason why I am not working in the NHL right now, or probably any form of actual hockey, because I am way too emotional. There's a reason why I'm doing this in front of a camera. A game last night, if I was Stan Bowman, I legitimately would not have allowed Knoblauch into the arena. If they do a morning skate today, I wouldn't let him in. I'd be like, yeah, you're done. You're done, son. See you later. Can't have that. Who would you even hire to replace him? I don't know. Maybe we get Pete DeBoer, the sad-looking clown. He always looks sad on the bench. Pete DeBoer, the guy who just could never get the job done with any of the super teams that he's been given, whether it was with Vegas or Dallas. Do you go after Pete DeBoer? Is that who the Oilers would replace Kris Knoblauch with? I certainly hope not. He doesn't seem like someone that would instill confidence in this group or energy. But my God, he might tell these guys to start playing with an edge. You're down 9-1 and you don't even want to hit anyone? And Trent Frederic last night. I have to talk about Trent Frederic. He's being asked about, going out there, starting fights or laying hits. And Trent, you know what Trent Frederic said after the game? He said, well, no one's going to want to fight someone who has one goal. Who cares how many goals you have? If you're not scoring, what are you doing, Trent? What if you had 15 goals on this, if you were leading the league in goals, suddenly everyone on the other team is going to be like, I want to fight Trent Frederic because he scores goals. No, they fight Trent Frederic because you're a third line grinder who fought all the time in Boston, who plays on an edge, or at least I thought played on an edge. What kind of response is that? This is embarrassing, man. Trent Frederic, we're in year 1 of 8. It's gotten off to the worst start imaginable. And it's not just Trent Frederic. The fact that he even spoke after the game, I give credit to Trent Frederic, actually, for going out in front of the media after a game like that. But you know who did not go in front of the media last night after that game? Connor McDavid did not go out in front of the media. Their captain. Leon Draisaitl, their assistant captain. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, their assistant captain. Longest tenured Oiler. Darnell Nurse, assistant captain. One of the longest tenured Oilers. I think second longest tenured Oilers. Darnell Nurse, who was a -2 and had an expected goals for percentage of, I think, 10% last night. Darnell Nurse, who was on the ice for 3 shot attempts for. When Nurse was on the ice, the Oilers only generated 3 shot attempts towards the opposition net. He didn't talk in front of the media. Stu Skinner didn't talk in front of the media, and Calvin Pickard didn't talk in front of the media. Your leadership group and your goaltenders, none of them had the balls to go in front of the media. Now, obviously, when your leadership group is not in front of the media, that's usually an organizational decision. That was either a Knoblauch or a Bowman decision to shelter them, right? But they should not be the ones being sheltered after a 9-1 loss. You should be sheltering your role players. It is not the role players' fault that the team is where they're at. This is on the leadership group. This is on Knoblauch. This is on his leadership group. Why are we sheltering the leadership group from having to answer for a game like that on home ice? Maybe if it was on the road, I would understand not having the big dogs in front of the cameras. This is on home ice. We need to hear from you. We need to hear what your thought process is. And maybe it's actually a good thing that they didn't speak in front of the media, because if they said something stupid like Trent Frederic did, that would have just made everyone else even more mad. Stu Skinner probably would have went in front of the media and went, I think I'm playing pretty good. Like he always does. Yeah, I feel good. My game feels good. Meanwhile, you have Dobish in Montreal, who is 6-0 on the season, gave up a late goal for a loss, basically crying at his locker because he felt like he cost the team the game. That's how much that goalie cares about winning. You have Elvis Merzlikins in Columbus. Gave up a late goal in the third period to the Islanders after having a 2-1 lead. Gave up 2 late goals. Islanders win in regulation. Elvis Merzlikins was on the bench after the game, not even wearing his equipment, and he was essentially crying on the bench. He was so upset at himself that he let that game go. And all I hear from Edmonton's goaltenders are, I think I'm playing pretty good. That's embarrassing. There is a standard that other players are holding themselves to. There is a standard that other organizations are holding their players to. And then there's a standard of whatever the fuck Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard are being given in Edmonton. Not only from the organization, but from the fans too. Anyone that is defending this, I don't know what to say. I am more than willing to engage on a lot of topics here. This is a very rare crash out for me. This is a very rare situation where I'm having none of it. Absolutely none of it. The Oilers are 6-4 this season. They are 500. Somehow this team is 500. Because the only 2 games that they've played that I think they actually deserve to win was the second game of the season against Vancouver, and then the game against Utah on October 28th, where they played for a really solid 40 minutes. And maybe the game against Calgary. So 3 out of 16 games where I think they have deserved the win. And they somehow have 6 wins in those games. 6 wins in 16 games. The loser Bettman point is inflating this team in the standings. And if they do not course correct as soon as possible, they are going to be a bottom feeder. And we are going to be talking about their lottery protected first rounder that they don't have a first rounder, but it's lottery protected. So if the Oilers were to somehow miss the playoffs, finish bottom 5 in the league, and win the lottery, one of the lottery picks, the Oilers get that pick back. And I don't want to be talking about that. I don't want to be in January talking about the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes and doing the lottery simulators. This is a team that is supposed to be competing for a Stanley Cup, not competing for Gavin McKenna. No offense to Gavin McKenna. I would love to have Gavin McKenna on my team, but as a Bruins fan, as my second favorite team, I kind of want McKenna on Boston. But even the Boston Bruins are playing with more heart. Nico Sturm called out his team and benched a bunch of guys, and he sat Mason Lohrei for 5 games. And that team has suddenly rattled off 6 wins in a row. Look, I implore all of you, look at the lineup the Boston Bruins are rolling with, and you tell me if they should be winning 6 games in a row or if that should be a lottery team. The Boston Bruins, there's a culture there from top to bottom. What is expected in Boston? In Edmonton, they don't have that. And there's a clear difference in how those 2 teams play. The Oilers are going to miss the playoffs if they keep playing like this. They are going to be out of the playoff hunt by Christmas, maybe even sooner if this is what they get. They play Columbus tomorrow. If there is no response tomorrow, if tomorrow night against Columbus, you're on home ice again, by the way. If tomorrow night they get absolutely shit-canned again, big problems. Big problems. Not only for the team, but there's going to be big problems for my own psyche regarding this team, the content that I create. I don't want to be the guy that is sitting in front of a camera yelling. But I'm showing some emotion, so I want the damn team to show some emotion too. The fans deserve so much better than this. There better be a response on Monday. Someone better drop the gloves. Somebody better hit somebody. And somebody make a goddamn save. Play for each other. Kris Knoblauch better be vocal behind that bench. Figure it out. Y'all are millionaires. You're all acting like a bunch of babies. Crazy, man. Crazy. If you're still watching to this point in the video or listening, thank you so much. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Tell some that you love them. And as always, fight like a kid. Fight like Ben. I'm not saying let's go Oilers. I'm saying fight like a kid, fight like Ben. That's how I'm ending these videos for the time being. Until the Oilers prove and show me that they deserve to be cheered for like they are. Not ending the video like that. Tell someone that you love them. Fight like a kid. Fight like Ben.